I would like to start and just let everyone know, thank you so much for coming. We really appreciate it. I'm new to this, hosting a panel and everything. Little background on me. I grew up in northern Utah. I'm based in Salt Lake City now, and I went to FITM in Los Angeles for schooling. Got my degree in visual communications. And so I've kind of been putting that to the test the last couple of years. I started a podcast and built my own set and just kind of been dipping my toes into other places. Since COVID hit and I lost my interior design job, I've been kind of doing lots of other things. But I've really loved growing this little community of mine. I feel like all of you guys are my actual friends and just like a fun little space to have on the internet because I don't have anything locally. I have a couple friends now locally with limb difference, but I didn't have anything growing up. And so this just fills my cup more than you guys can understand. And I really, my parents didn't have really anyone to ask questions or talk to. And so we're really glad that we get to offer this now for you parents and family members, anyone that's a support person to a child with a limb difference. We want to connect with you. We want to be able to help. We do know that there's lots of different beliefs and lives and things out there. So we're all coming from different backgrounds ourselves, and we're not here to tell you guys how to parent. We really aren't. We just want to offer some advice, feedback, things that worked for us, things that didn't work for us, and know that every one of us is just leading from good intent. So take the things that work for you and leave the things that don't. Um, we're just here. We just want to be a resource. That's all. Um, I'm actually going to take these out because I don't want to mess with this the rest of the meetup. Is my device reconnected again? Okay, good. It looks like that's all we have joining us today. If anyone jumps in, I'll let them in, but thank you. Let me look at my agenda. Bear with me, I'm so nervous and it just keeps getting worse. I'm gonna let all of the panelists introduce themselves, just like a short little blurb where you're from, a little bit about you that you think is important for these families to know. Really what we want is this to be an introductory to all of us. I'm hoping that we'll have more of these meetups a bit more tailored to age groups, things like that, so that we can most effectively help you guys. Because I know that some feedback for teenagers may not be super helpful for you at this moment, but we got to start somewhere. So we're starting here. I'm Chelsea. I was born with monodactyly on my left hand, and it's about how much I can bend my finger, and then I have a shorter forearm. I don't know how to show this right now, but shorter forearm. And yeah, my limb difference comes with its own challenges and wins, but really excited that we're all here. And I'm going to pass the baton to Tina.
Hello, everybody. I am Tina. I am from the DC area. I have some brachydactyly in my left hand. My hands are actually the same length, except obviously a smaller palm. And obviously it's congenital. I know sometimes that there are, limb different folks who are not congenital. So I felt that was important to share too. So I will pass it to the person on my right in my gallery. That's Madison.
Hi, everyone. I grew up in Iowa and I moved to San Diego when I was 18 for college. When I was born, they told me they told my parents it was amniotic band syndrome. But as I've grown up and met other people with limb differences and kind of have done a little more research, I think mine is symbrachydactyly as well. And yeah, I can't wait to hear more about everyone's stories and get into our questions. And thank you, Chelsea, for hosting this and creating this community for us. And I'm going to pass it to the person on my right, which is Louisa.
Hello, hi, I'm Louisa. I'm originally from the East Coast. I lived in New York for 10 years, and now I live in Berkeley, California. I'm a dancer, and I've been working with physically integrated companies since like 2015. So that's been a really fun journey to connect with all sorts of people who have different bodies and different abilities. I'm passing to Julia.
Hi, I'm Jillian. I'm in San Diego, California. I was born same as Madison, missing my left hand, also called amniotic band syndrome. Not sure what it really was, but I am a nurse and a very badass adaptive human being. I will pass it on to Esteban. You're muted. I can't hear you.
Oh, my bad. My name is Esteban, and I was born limb different. And yeah, I'm just excited to be here with everyone here. And I am glad and want to share my experiences with you all. Very open about it, and I'm excited to hear all of your experiences as well. And oh, sorry. And then I'll pass the baton to Maddie.
Hi everyone, I'm Maddie. This is my mom, Lindy. She's joining me today. I'm originally from Houston, Texas, but now I live in the Bay Area, California. I was born with radial dysplasia, so I just have my shorter arm. You can see it's a little bit shorter. Yeah, and I am also a badass adaptive person. So thanks for that, Julian.
Is that all of our panelists? I really wasn't keeping track.
It's,
Scotty. Scotty is on his way to a very cool art conference. So he's here with us and will be chiming in when he can. Scotty, are you able to? Let's see. We're in chat. Let's see. Scotty left. So he may be having some technical issues. So if he wants to come back in, we'll let him back in. But anyway, oh, here he goes. Hi, Scotty, you're back in. Are you able to introduce yourself? Let us know when you can. How about that? Okay. Well, let's see. I'd like for the families to introduce themselves now, so you can keep it as short or as detailed as you want, but it'll be helpful for us to know kind of what ages your child is, maybe where you're located, stuff like that, so we can tailor our answers around that. And I'm actually going to have Kathy start us off, if that's okay, and then she'll pass it. Okay, and
I feel like I knew you were gonna do that. So I'm Kathy Vasquez. This is Eduardo and Elena. Elena, say hi. Hi. She is our beautiful daughter. She is 2 years old with some brachydactyly. As you'll notice, her arm stopped about right forearm. And we are in Central Texas. We're in Waco. Where Magnolia is. I know most people ask us about Magnolia when we say we're from Waco. And we're just eager to learn from people with lived experiences. Our circle is growing slowly with other limb different families, but I'm always looking for opportunities to meet people who are further along in their life and their journeys that we can learn from. So I pass it off to Audrey in Chicago.
Time to go to math. Thanks, Kati. As you have met, this is my son, Paxton. I have another son, Callan. And this is our daughter, Henley. Henley is a month old yet on Friday, and she was born with some brachydactyly as well. Her arm, it was also described to us as amniotic band syndrome, so I'm not sure. I don't really understand what the difference is, I guess, but please stop. But yeah, she is, we're here just to, learn all we can about how to support her as she grows. Her brothers are absolutely obsessed with her, which is wonderful. And, our family is wonderfully supportive as well. And so just learning how all of us can do our best. Sorry for my son. To support her. So thank you for hosting this, Chelsea, and thank you to all the panelists and the families that are here too. We're really excited for the conversation. I will pass it to Autumn. Are you here as a family member? Okay, perfect.
Yes, I am. I'm sorry I might technical difficulties. I don't have great service, but my daughter is 5 months old. Her name is Delilah. She was born with a limb difference. Her right arm ends just below her elbow. It was not congenital. They don't believe that it was amniotic band syndrome. They believe she had a stroke in the womb, which caused the blood flow to cut off. They don't really know. She is our little miracle baby. She was not supposed to survive here with us, and she ended up being perfectly fine with just a little limb difference. So we live in Baltimore, Maryland, and our community is kind of tight-knit, and there is absolutely nobody around us that we know who has a limb difference, and she is the first of everybody in our town to meet somebody with a limb difference. So this was great. I love this opportunity to be able to ask questions because we're kind of introducing everybody to this in our town. So I would love to be able to spread that information as well. I don't know how to see people, so I don't know who to pass it off to.
That's okay. I can pass it off to the next person. I'm just figuring out how to scroll my page over, honestly. Let's see. Danielle?
Hey guys. I don't know what I look like, but here I am. I have COVID, so I'm gonna be off camera because it's been a journey for me. I thank you so much for organizing this. I live in San Diego. I'm very lucky to live here because we have an incredible community of limb different people, including Jillian and Madison, who my daughter has actually done adaptive rock climbing with them. So happy that we have this community. My daughter Zoe is turning 5 years old. She was born with a congenital limb difference of an amputation below her right elbow. So she was just born missing her right hand and some of her forearm. No one knows why. They said it was probably a blood clot. And I was super, super nervous when I first heard the news. I found out during my 20-week ultrasound and was just convinced of like, oh, there must be another issue, that something else must be wrong. And it turns out that that's just it. And she's incredible. She's adapting so well, and I've learned to adapt as well. And she loves to surf. She does gymnastics. We play soccer. She does rock climbing. So for all like the newer parents, I'm always so happy to connect and kind of talk you through some of the things I've learned along the way. And I know it's really overwhelming at first, but I'm only 5 years in and I could already tell she's going to be able to do everything. So excited to be here, and thanks for organizing this.
Yeah, thank you. Let's have Amy next.
Hi. So we are based in the UK, and our daughter just turned 2 years old. She was born with a congenital condition called PFFD, which basically means that her femur bone is much shorter than any other bone. So her left leg is a lot shorter. At 11 months old, we chose to amputate her foot so that she could wear a prosthetic. She's got some further operations to go, but she's walking independently and she's thriving. And yeah, we're just very keen to connect with other families with children of limb difference and to learn all that we can learn, from people that have been through it so that we can support her in the best possible way. So we're very pleased that you organised this. Thank you.
Yeah, we're happy to have you. Thanks for joining us. Let's have, okay, I'm trying to find everyone here. If you have it, please just jump in. Or is that everyone?
Can you guys hear us?
We can now.
Okay, can you guys see us?
No, but that's okay.
Oh, there we go. Okay, I had to allow some permissions. So I'm Destiny. This is my husband, Bryant, and this is Evelyn. We found out we're in Washington. We found out at 18 weeks she was going to be born with a limb difference. So she has brachydactyly on her left side. And we're happy to be here. Thank you.
Yeah. I think I saw one more. Alyssa?
Hi, I'm Elisa. I can't get my camera to work, so I apologize.
That's okay.
I have a 13-year-old boy with brachydactyly on his left hand, and I came to this session to try to get some information about navigating the teen years, because this has definitely been more challenging than the elementary and toddler years, so I'm looking for a little support that way.
Elisa, do you mind elaborating on what's been challenging, just so we can, when we have our discussion, better touch on those things?
Absolutely. It's really his self-perception at this point, asking more questions about who would ever hire me, things as he's looking towards the future, even though he's had really no bullying issues or any real problems adapting to anything. He does everything. He plays baseball, ties his shoes, plays tennis, all of that stuff. Right now, it's that teen year self-perception that I think all middle schoolers go through, but having a visible difference is definitely affecting him at this point. So I'm hoping for some tips as we move forward.
Awesome. Thank you. I think we all were like, yeah, we get it.
Great. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for joining us. Have we had an introduction from everyone? We don't want to leave anyone out. Okay. If you have any questions or anything, should we? Oh, they decided to go away before I could let them in. Anyway, so now that we've done family introductions, I'm going to read a couple of questions that we had submitted, and I'm going to let them in, but I'm just going to keep going. Okay. Hi, Nick. We've let you in, but we're going to keep going. Okay. We had a few questions submitted before this started, and I think we're just going to start there and see what we can touch, and then we'll have the Q&A portion later for any additional questions. But panelists, feel free to unmute yourselves so we can have just like a discussion. Our first question is, what are some of the most valuable, helpful, or meaningful things that we can do as parents to help our child as they grow up? Does anyone have anything they want to just, they're very passionate about?
I can say something.
Go ahead.
I think one thing that my mom did for me when I was in like second grade and I was switching schools, so coming into like a whole new group of kids was she made like a whole kind of picture book of like my story and like pictures of me when I was a baby and like, you know, so I could share that with the kids like during our circle time, say like this is like what this is about, this is how I was born, or like I'm open to like talk about it. Obviously, like I don't remember like too much of like how that conversation went down, but I do remember like having the visual and like being able to share that with those kids right away, and then boom, like okay, they understood, and I never had like any problems or anything like in school in that particular setting. So I found that really helpful going into
you
like
felt
a new
like
group
a
of kids.
Yeah. So you felt like a prepared educational document was like a nice tool to have in your tool bag.
Yeah, and there's so many like like picture books now and all sorts of books like celebrating like different bodies that could also be shared like to help like tell your story and kind of make it like not comfortable but you know normalize it a little bit.
That's a great idea.
One thing for me, I think, is as parents, encourage the conversation amongst your child of just talking about their limb difference, talking about, um, how they're feeling, their struggles, their successes, everything. Um, I had very, very supportive parents, but one thing that I wish would have been encouraged more was just the conversation about it. Because once I got into like middle school and high school years, I really began to hide my limb difference and never talked about it and just really internalized everything. So I would say just as parents, really encourage that communication because I think that can just kind of help your child open up and feel safer to share their feelings. um yeah.
Um, sorry.
Anyone. This is a free for all, you guys. Esteban.
All right. Yeah, I wanted to piggyback what Madison said, and also remembering what Danielle said when she introduced herself, and um, having a child that or a son that has in or is in middle school and is going through that phase. That for me was like the hardest probably phase I had to go through in middle school, just because I hid myself. I wore long sleeves. And from that was just myself, even though I had really supporting parents. But from what Madison's saying is, yeah, having that conversation more with um, more so on the topic of limb difference, and um, because it is important, and today it's more a lot with social media, so it's not really talked about, but um, it should be. So, but definitely. It is great to have really supporting parents that at least care and will give a general topic about that. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maddie?
Yeah, I agree with everyone so far. I think it's super important to just like allow the conversations to happen. For me, it was really helpful. My mom and I actually talked about this before during the panel. She just took my lead. I think that was really, for me and my personality type, was super headstrong, super stubborn as a kid. And so just allowing me to be me while also, she was always there, right? Like if I had anything I wanted to talk about, she was listening, she was engaged. But yeah, taking my lead and kind of letting me figure it out was really, really important. And I think helped me to kind of develop a sense of identity around what my limb difference means to me, because it can feel so different for all of us. And yeah, and I just want to validate, I think for us in our generation growing up, like our parents, of course, wanted to support us. I think it was just harder to talk about it because there weren't resources available. So I would just encourage you all to use the resources that are available, like coloring books for the littles, or TV shows, like encouraging that representation, I think would have been so important if it was available to us when we were younger. So, yeah.
I'm going to piggyback off of that. I think my identity issues would have been so much less had I had representation to look at. Like I also grew up in a very small town. So I think it was Autumn who was saying that you live in a tight-knit community, and now you're the only one that has a difference that you're educating on. I did not hear the word disability in regards to myself until I was in my 20s. And because of that, I missed out on a lot of resources that could have been offered to me as a child. And instead, I decided to, I think a lot of us have this in us. If we're born with this, the situation that we have thicker skin, I think, as kids, and I took the route of like, I am so uncomfortable when this happens to me that I'm gonna make this person feel comfortable before I comfort myself. And so if I have anything to say to parents, make sure that especially as your kid is so young, take on that responsibility for them, because it's almost parentification. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that, but it's when a child has to be too mature too soon. And so being able to offer those like coloring books or resources to help your classes understand, or even leave them in coffee shops in your community, little things like that will go a long way. Or even like a sticker. There's a lot of people out there selling these inclusive stickers and things like that. So that's a nice, fun, educational thing that you can kind of like keep in your diaper bag even. And then when people come up to you, you can kind of send them off with something. And if it's from like the Lucky Fin Project or Moxie Adaptive or Limb Difference Foundation, like there's a lot out there and we're all still learning about them, I think. But then it'll have like a resource for them to go look at later, like those websites or Instagram accounts, little things like that.
I know I'm not a panelist, but could I add to that? Because you just reminded me, I hadn't even shared this with you in any of our panels lately, but back in March, I went to my local Barnes & Noble to look for a book for Elena, and I happened to start up a conversation with one of the booksellers there, and I mentioned to her that they had a lack of books representing limb difference, and she asked me to explain what limb difference was, and I just gave her like a quick spiel. And then I said, there's a resource online that was shared in one of the, Facebook pages I'm in of like all these really great children's books. Can I email you that list just to peruse and see, if it's worth adding to the selection at the store? And she did. I ran into her again a couple of months ago, and she said, I forgot to let you know, but in April, when you said it was Limb Difference Awareness Month, I put out a display of new books of limb difference. And I said, oh, I wish I had known, I would have come out. But regardless, like, I appreciate you, doing that. So, I mean, I feel like instances like that, I mean, you don't know what they'll say. You don't know how somebody will react, but I mean, you don't know unless you try. And so I told her, if you do it again next April, let me know. I'm totally coming out and bringing my little Lucky Fin moms with me. So what you just mentioned, Chelsea, just reminded me of that. So I thought I'd share.
Thank you. That's so brilliant. Yeah, because I think a lot of us are hesitant in asking for that support. I know I am for sure. I'm getting more comfortable. But there's a lot our communities can do for us. And I think there's a lot our communities would like to do for us. They just don't know what to do yet, So reaching out to like your local library or bookstores can be a great idea. Anyone have anything else to add?
I'm not a panelist, but I would like to add. I
Please.
design and sell limb differentials for my daughter, and I use the profits of that to purchase children's books that are limb difference awareness, and I donate them to local elementary schools within the Maryland area. So if anybody would like stickers, I am more than happy to send designs or anything your way, any books. I have like an entire
Yes.
so that is what I do in my free time. Anybody would like that.
Awesome. Will
Yes,
you write that
please.
down in the chat? And then when I send like a thank you email at the end of all of this, I'll provide that in the email.
Yes.
So we can all go and purchase those from you. That's so awesome. Okay, I'm going to go to the next question and we can circle back if we need to. What is a good answer to my child asking me, why was I born this way?
So this is a hard one because I know everybody has a different way that they approach it. And I think there is no, well, there probably, maybe people think there's a wrong way. I think it's just we do the best with what we can. But I would say each person is different. I am someone who likes context and I like explanation, and I need to thoroughly understand everything. So I'm not somebody who's easily like, oh, okay. So there's lots of follow-up questions. Even as a child, it was like, okay, so what? So my experience is that while my mom was very, she was good about it. Why was I born this way? Well, and she gave we don't really know, the most honest answer. We don't know. Your hand might have been close to my belly, which we found out now that's obviously not, but that was what she was told then. Or, it could have been that the umbilical cord was wrapped around and maybe, all the reasons. And I do appreciate that. I had a cousin who was young ask me what happened to my hand. And I got the opportunity to tell her as a limb different person. And I will tell you that the way I told a loved one, a family member, is I wanted to be as honest as possible. So I was like, well, much to her mom's chagrin, I'm sure. I was like, so when you're a baby, you're in a tummy, and then this happens, and then your fingers grow, and then this, but mine didn't. And so I did go back and kind of maybe I was a little more scientific than most, but I gave her what I would have liked, which is that, because I did have that conversation we were just talking about the other day, which is, are these ever going to grow? Are these are these ever going to grow? Because they're all different sizes. And I remember asking that definitively, and I remember the answer being no. And I appreciated that answer so much. I can't tell you how much I appreciated that answer. Because then I know, I just know. So but I think everybody's different. Everybody has a different tolerance. That's just my preference. I like to understand all the things.
Anyone else? Go ahead.
For me, I think I love answering that question. Like, I work with children, so when kids ask me, I love just highlighting, like, this is how I was born, this is what makes me unique, and this is what makes me special. What's something about you that makes you unique or something that makes you special? And kind of just encourage the curiosity amongst kids, like, to think about what makes them different and special and unique, and highlight how we're all individuals are different. We all have our own uniqueness. And I think I would have really appreciated that as a child, because my parents were very involved in the Christian religion. And so they turned, when I would ask that question as a child, it would be, oh, like, in a very positive way, but they would say, like, this is just how God made you. And then growing up, like in middle school, I really struggled with that. And I really struggled with my relationship with God and just understanding, like, why me? Why am I different? XYZ. So I think really just keeping your answer like in a positive way, and just focusing on like everyone's uniqueness and everyone's individuality, and highlighting that um, would have been like something that I more would have preferred as a child, and something that I try to incorporate now to other children.
I will piggyback off that. As a child, obviously, your response is different than as an adult. I mean, the why me was the majority of my life personally until I got older and realized in a room of 50 people, they will remember me, maybe because I have one hand, but also because I can do everything that all 50 people in a room can do with one hand. And to me, that sets me apart in my heart in the best way possible. So even if they do remember me as the one-handed girl, they're like, but she can do it exactly the same as all 50 people in a room. So that's something I didn't realize as a kid. Obviously, it's much harder. Back to middle school, that was probably the worst time, honestly, for me. I was severely bullied at that time. Also hid my hand a lot. But as I got older, I started to realize like I don't want to be like everyone else. I actually appreciate my difference. And I don't know if, kids will fully ever understand that until they're adults. But I like Madison's response of, I was born this way. What makes you unique? I think that's a really special way to approach it with a child for sure.
I think so my niece is 5 and she's really just all she can think about right now is my dog and my hand. If any conversation comes up, where's Louise? You only have one finger. And it's so okay to me because I think being like I used to not be around kids because it was really hard for me to handle. I like lots of questions, repeated questions. And then I realized, oh, they're literally just kids. And I was just a kid, even though I also had a limb difference. I was just as curious about other people's differences. I was just as curious about everything. And so if I like bring myself like down, like literally squat down, get to their level and be like, yeah, I do only have 6 fingers. Count them out with them and then be like, how many do you have? And not one's better, one's worse, just this is me, this is you. And I used to tell kids at school that my fingers were going to grow back, so don't worry, I will be normal soon. My fingers will grow in, then we can all be friends. And I think, again, I took a lot of the responsibility of other people's reactions and emotions to my situation. And that has had repercussions in my adult life. And so like I'm actively combating those things as like being a people pleaser and thinking of others before myself, because it's totally okay to think of yourself before others, especially if they're strangers. But I wanted to mention, Jillian, you said something really great that also touched in with Elisa's son being worried about like who's going to hire him. You are so much more talented than the other candidates. And if I would have been told in high school that when I'm applying to these jobs to mention this part of myself because it makes me part like who I am, and not to hide it from a job application, but to own it and be like, and I'm so adaptive in all situations because I grew up this way, I would have had a lot more confidence going into the workforce, for sure. What do you guys think?
Can you all see us okay? Okay. I just want to touch on the question specifically, the why was I born this way or why am I like this? When I hear that question, for me, it brings up emotion. Like your kid is processing what they're feeling and they don't understand. So I think if I could give any advice, it would be to reflect to them. It sounds like you're questioning, I'm curious how you're feeling about, the way that you look or the reason you're, and get to those emotions behind the question. Because I think, again, like a lot of us had mentioned, we are adaptive and we are amazing. And we've had a lot of really hard emotions coming up throughout our lives around how we handle others' reactions to us or, like your child's who will hire me. Like those are all, I think, every one of us has probably had similar thoughts. So just validating, like, yeah, this is really freaking hard, and you are amazing for feeling your feelings, acknowledging your feelings, and continuing to go out there and try things. So yeah, I don't know if there's a right or wrong answer, and I'd imagine it would depend on your faith and your culture. But yeah, just getting to the what's under that question, I think would be really important.
Can you guys hear me? Oh, okay. Yeah, I was thinking more so like what I, how I grew up as a kid, just even not asking my parents why, but more so hearing other kids asking me why was I born and coming up with so many different answers and um sometimes joking or sometimes just saying what happened, but um yeah, just that part can be a lot too. Just that part can make a kid or even someone older just like a lot of emotions, but um yeah, just at the same time it's owning up to it. And then um yeah, I think that part is hard as a kid, but um once parents can just, you know, say this is how it is, or yeah, and I know it depends too with the faith and like my dad is a pastor, so a Christian pastor, so I understand that too. Um, because he'll tell me God made me this way and things like that, and but um, but yeah, it's just I think it all depends on that person asking you and yeah.
Parents, I think the consensus, what I'm getting, is that based on your family unit, your child, come up with like a list of responses, good educational content to provide people when they are asking these questions. This will just help you and your child feel that much more comfortable because there are 100,000 different scenarios you'll be in, different interactions. But as long as you have like a case, it feels like almost like a suitcase full of these resources for yourself, things like that, you'll be a lot more resilient emotionally, I think. For myself, when I started doing that, I'm like, all right, well, when I go through like the grocery store line checkout, I hate doing self checkout. I'm not being paid to work there. So I'm going to take all my stuff to the checkout line and let them check out my stuff for me, bag it. And I made things a lot harder for myself originally. Like I would try to do everything, and I can, but I don't need to, And so encourage your child to find what works for them. And I don't offer up that information when I'm going through the checkout line or people I'm never going to see again in my mind, right? Like I only really offer up the story of my hand or whatever when I either have the capacity to do so in passing or it's people one-on-one that genuinely want to know because they want to get to know me. But I think everyone kind of has their own rule book, I guess we should say, for themselves. I'd like to open the Q&A just a little early because I want to be able to get to as many questions as possible. So parents, if you have any questions, go ahead and push raise my hand or physically raise your hand in the image, and then we'll get to your question.
So I
So we
see.
have one came through from Danielle.
Yeah, there's a chat from, I was going to tell you, Chelsea, there's a chat from Danielle that's been there for a moment. And then I saw Autumn and Destiny raise their hands. So,
Tina, do you want to read the message from Danielle and then we'll get to the raised hands?
Sure. She says, last night my daughter said for the first time that she wishes she had two hands. It was a bit unprompted. Not sure if there's an approach here that you'd recommend. I just reminded her how special she is and that she was made this way, but open to other suggestions. I think that's a lovely response and very valid, and that's wonderful.
But it's hard to know because you weren't expecting that question too, it sounds like. And so you were a little caught off guard. My brain is going to what Maddie said. Maddie's also a therapist and works with kids heavily. And so I'm going to just pass it to you, Maddie. I feel like.
Oh man, putting me on the spot, Chelsea. Yeah, that's really hard. Just want to validate that for you. I'm sure that was in the moment, it's like panic mode, right? Like, oh gosh, what do I say? And don't want to say the wrong thing. Yeah, my mind kind of goes to again, just what we see in society from a young age. Little boys and little girls are socialized to want to be a certain way or look a certain way. And I'm wondering if that's maybe where that's coming from a little bit, you know, like wanting to be like other people. And I think your response was absolutely beautiful. Just validating who your child is and that they're amazing and perfect the way that they are. And I think just it's really a simple answer, just keeping that door open to continue to have, you know, I guess just saying something like, it sounds like you really want to look this way and it's really hard to not. And I just want to keep this conversation open. If you ever want to talk about it, I'm here for you. It sounds really simple and kind of silly almost, but I think just having that door open, you know, if they ever want to talk about what that feels like. Because I just, you know, not related to my disability, I think I had similar moments as a kid and as a young adult, you know, like, why aren't my lips like, you know, so-and-so, the celebrity, or why is my, you know, hair not straight and shiny all the time? You know, like there are very physical pressures that we put on ourselves in this ableist society, and all of us go through that. So just normalizing and validating.
And also, if I can add, as a mom, it's okay to be like, oh, off guard, that was a good question and your response was great, but allow yourself to take that question she has and maybe think on it some more. And when you see, I don't know if you're in the kitchen together or if you're at bath time together, you can have an opportunity, if you come up with something, to expand on it. Feel free to do that. Don't limit yourself to that was your one and done opportunity, you know. So that's what I always tried to do. Yeah.
And like as a parent, I'd imagine you were learning as you go, right? Like it's okay to acknowledge that. Like that's a really hard thing and a really good question. Let me think about it. You know, it kind of models, you know, we're all trying our best and we don't always know the answers, and that's okay.
Thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Yeah, let's see who we can. Destiny.
Hi, I had a question. So we are Evelyn's 7 weeks old, but I had a question regarding when you're introducing her to new people. I don't know if I should say anything right now. I don't say anything to anybody. I kind of just wait to see if they ask. But I'm just wondering, like, what's other parents' experiences when you introduce to new people? Do you say, "Hey, this is my daughter. She was born with some brachydactyly," or do you let people ask?
Go ahead, Lynn or Lindy.
I remember when you know, when Madison was a baby like that, and I think I chose not to bring it to anyone's attention, but I also paid attention, like, you know how some people will, oh, she's so pretty or whatever, and you'll see them touch. Then I think that was the time I would go, yeah, and you know, her when she was born, and you know, choose how you'd like to explain it if you want to. But that's what I did. I didn't just, you know, offer it up. I kind of waited, kind of watched, you know, to see if they had curiosity, and then I would explain it. Yeah.
My mom just says My mom just said the same thing off camera, Lindy.
Really? Oh, awesome.
She said, "Well, I waited until they said something." She said, "But I was pretty open about it. So as soon as they said something, I was, but yeah, she waited. She didn't like walk around like holding it up, like, hey, everybody, like, look how awesome my daughter is." But yeah, she would do the same thing.
Thank you.
Can I add to this? So my daughter's 5 months old. We've had a lot of experiences introducing her. Something that I don't just like, I wait for them to say something. I can always see like they're like, oh, she's beautiful, and then like their eyes will go and it's a shock and they don't know what to say. And something that frustrates it's frustrating for me as a parent, and I feel guilty saying this, but they always try to overcompensate to let like me know that they're okay that my daughter has a limb difference, and like they're very cool about it. And it's very like I get very mad because they're like, oh, she'll be fine, she'll be able to do anything. And I'm like, I know that she will be, like, and it's every single time she meets somebody, it is the same thing over and over and over again. And I understand they're trying to be kind, and this is the only way that people know how to say these things, but I just wanted to know if there was a different like way I could turn this conversation so that I don't have this same one over and over and over again.
I would also love to know if there's any input on this, because we have the exact same thing. So many times people mean the best. They're like, oh, but she's amazing. Look, it's not holding her back. She's going to do great. She's fantastic. And I'm like, I know. That's not what I need from you right now.
I think so this is actually one of the reasons I finally just did this meetup. I've been wanting to do it for months, and I'm now in more like Facebook groups of families, and I've been noticing some frustrations, and don't feel guilty saying it, because this is the safe space to say these things. It is frustrating. It's annoying, and people are idiots, and you just get to come in contact with them in a way most people don't. And the older I've gotten and the more like I'm very exposed when I go out. I also have a full tattoo sleeve that I thought was a great idea to distract from my limb difference. And it just drew more attention. So I really helped myself out in that regard. One of my last jobs, I was working as an assistant manager at Athleta. So I was oftentimes in like a sports bra and leggings, no like covering on my limb difference. And I don't know how to say this gently, but it will never stop. And I've just had to get better at managing it myself and other people, and your confidence will grow and your annoyance will grow. And I do think though that that's such a nice bonding thing for you and your child. You can both be frustrated. You can start to like, when your child gets to the age where they're handling these situations when you're not there or whatever, you guys get to bond over how frustrating and annoying it is, but then find solutions together that work for both of you. And you have all of us to come vent to. So that's one thing I really want all parents to take away from here is we are the resource, so that you don't have to be so frustrated by the time you're in your 20s, 30s, and 40s like us. Or your kid is in the 20s, 30s, and 40s like us. So I'll pass on.
Come say bye.
I'd like to piggyback off that. I agree completely with what everyone's saying. And I also think as a parent, when you kind of get those questions or those stares or people trying to overcompensate after they notice, I think it could be a really beautiful opportunity to spread the awareness and spread the education, and just maybe kind of like give them a short little blip about limb difference or about the disability community. Because I also think, limb difference, it's more common now, but it's still like not not everyone knows about it, right? I still encounter people who have never heard of the term limb difference. So I totally feel you on all your emotions from frustrations. But I often remind myself, like, this will forever be my journey, and it's my opportunity to educate other people about differences and about diversity in our world and in our community, and just try to keep that perspective. But most definitely, it's a tough one.
Really quickly, Madison, I just want to ask, because both of us are in quite advocate roles publicly, like even on social media and all these things. With even that, and if even you're not actively advocating or whatever day to day, your capacity will change. It will throughout your life, it will throughout the week, throughout the month, the year. So tune into yourself and figure out, like, what is my plan when my capacity is low? What is my plan when I'm at high capacity and can offer those educational moments, and really just like be a duck and let things slide off, But sometimes we're all human. We all experience other things other than limb difference, struggles. We have mental health struggles. We have family struggles, all these different things that are at play. So make sure that you're taking care of yourself too.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Your answer is never going to be the same for everyone, because at every moment you're going to be feeling different, right? Just like Chelsea said. So definitely taking that into accountability. And like Chelsea also said, you don't always owe people an explanation, right? There's going to be countless strangers who are going to stare or who are going to be curious, but truthfully, it's up to you and how you're feeling, and like how you handle the situation is going to be best for you in that moment. There's truly no right or wrong.
And one last thing, and then I'll take the next question. I like to match the energy of the person coming at me. This may be a personality flaw personally, but if people come at me with good intent, I really like to try to exchange with good intent and kindness and all that. But if people are just rude, I'm always like, oh, you could have asked me way nicer and I'd actually tell you, but you lost that opportunity, and then like kept walking on. It's a good educational thing for like just social interaction sometimes. So
I told somebody once that because they were rude, they were just rude, and they weren't, that they didn't come as a place of kindness. They said, oh, what happened? I said, oh, shark attack. I mean, she was only a few months old. I was like, shark attack, and then just walked off.
Bye.
Yeah,
you're
ya.
done.
And there's a lot of people with limb differences who use humor in that way, and feel very comfortable. I know there are a lot of adults. I'm not somebody who does that. There are so many that make T-shirts and have mugs, and they find humor to be really helpful in those situations. So you're in good company.
Yes. Okay, Autumn.
Yes, I had a question, and I have been struggling to find this answer because a lot of people who I see who have a limb difference don't wear prosthetics, and our doctor has started mentioning that to us. So I was wondering if there's like kind of like the deaf community, how like cochlear implants are frowned upon. Is this the same way in the limb difference community, or is this just a personal choice, or what is this?
I just want to remind people, Autumn, you have a 5-month-old daughter, correct?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll let you guys go first.
I mean, I can't really speak from like personal experience on that because that was never like an option for me, or something that I was told that I needed, but I don't see it being something that's frowned upon. I think that it's something that if it's right for your child, you could explore, and she's like really little still, but give her the option, and she might get older and decide that that's not something that she feels like she needs or wants. but keeping kind of that door open for her to have the option and explore like what works for her. But I don't see it being a thing that's like frowned upon. I've never experienced that.
I was going to say earlier in the what should you do when the first question, actually, and it ties into this, and I didn't because I felt like you guys covered it, but I think it's really important to let your child, or at least for me, I guess depending on the level of disability, but for me, it was really great that I had an opportunity to learn how to do things with my hand, what I could do and what I couldn't do. And I could do almost everything. So I know that prosthetics were talked about with my parents, and they said, okay, well, we're going to see what she can do. And I ended up being able to do everything. I did go to look into a prosthetic so I could kayak like just a couple years ago. And I actually had the hanger clinic tell me they couldn't make me a prosthetic that would help me because my wrist, because this pull motion, it would come right off. And so they'd have to make a prosthetic that came all the way over. So I'm sure that's not it for everybody. I know there are people who have so much utility with prosthetics. There were also people who are older than myself. I've met in adult groups who were given prosthetics as young kids and wore them for a majority of their lives because they didn't know any different. So I don't think there's a right or a wrong. I think a lot of people might not go for prosthetics also because of and I don't want to assume, but at least the sense that I've gotten is that there is a connotation, right, with disability. And a lot of us talk about hiding, and a lot of us talk about wanting to assimilate. And so when you're trying to be like everybody else, I guess you would think that a prosthetic would help you be like everybody else, but I never thought that. I always thought that that would further call out my disability. But I'm happy to report that I never needed one, and I'm very happy without one, but I bought something else, not a different kind of prosthetic for kayaking. So if anybody has any curiosity about that, I'm happy to share, but it was an over-the-counter product that I didn't need to go get fit for. So those are my 2 cents.
Yes.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. Sorry, Jillian. Yeah, I just want to add really quick that I did obtain a prosthetic last year. Um, and I last time I used one was when I was like 5 years old. It was just a hook, and um, I didn't like it. It was just too heavy on my shoulder. It wasn't comfortable for me using it in school. I just didn't like what kids would see me as. But yeah, that depends. So, but um, now I just wanted to try the technology now that's available, and um, um, with I know Tina said that she went to a hanger clinic. I went to one too. They told me I could, um, and it took me like a whole year to obtain one from insurance. So I know that part is hard with insurance. Adding that, I've just been learning how to use one. Um, I've been just seeing what I can do, what I can't. Um, it it is hard. Still, the technology is still not there. Um, but it is just good to just try if you can, if it's possible. Um, but yeah, just wanted to add that.
Yeah, so I've been in prosthetics since I can remember. My parents thought that was the only option in creating normalcy in my life. So from age probably 4 up to middle school, wore different prosthetics for different things. I had one just for looks that if I wore a long sleeve, I could, look like I had 2 hands. I would say let your kid try any prosthetic available if they want to try it. But what I think, meeting adaptive people now at this age, we don't really use them. I think they get in the way. I think technology is not up to what we need in prosthetics. Hanger is a funny one because I was really big in the adaptive CrossFit world, and they could not create anything for me, period. Went through many trials with them, and I just ended up, like, Tina, creating my own prosthetic to adapt in CrossFit, which I have now a patent on because there's nothing on the market to help us do working out in CrossFit with one arm. So if it means, being creative, I know some of the moms I've met are really creative with their kids, and they'll, duct tape a cup onto a fishing pole so that, the nub can be put into the cup and they can still fish, like little things like that. If you have to adapt for your child, 100% get creative and do it. My first bicycle ever was literally just a cup duct taped to the handlebar, and that's how I was riding. And now I know obviously there are all these cool, adaptations to bicycles to help kids bicycle. But I think in the end, let your kids try prosthetics. If they like them, they like them. Obviously, I know a lot of leg amputees that need a leg prosthetic. That makes sense. But when it comes to arms, I think it really does get in the way. But definitely let them try it out.
I'm in a group message on Instagram with quite a few people who have acquired limb differences, and so they're much more in the prosthesis world. And from the information I've gathered from that thread is that prosthetist companies are not very well funded, and if they are, they're missing a lot of that one-on-one collaboration, and they get more funding for lower limb differences than they do upper. So the technology with upper limb difference prosthetics is just so far behind. I have a digit, and finding a prosthesis to go around this but still support me has been a nightmare. And I got my prescription for it, because in case you don't know, you do have to get a prescription from a doctor saying that I need this. And then you have to go through insurance if you're not going to pay out of pocket. So there is a little bit of a go around. Esteban mentioned that his took like a year. I would say that's similar to mine, and I only have a prototype at this point. And so I've been using more like Amazon weightlifting straps, things like that, like Jillian and Tina, to make my own prosthesis. And then there was one more thing I want to say, and now I just got pushed away. But go ahead, and then I'll jump back in later.
I just wanted to everybody for your response. I do have to jump off, but I would love to continue being a part of this. I don't know how to work the chat. I'm so sorry. My service is, but you have my email. Anybody can email me, text me for stickers, anything like that. I very appreciate it. It was great to meet everybody. Thank you.
Thank you. If anyone else needs to hop off, you're welcome to, but we're going to keep going until 2:30, just for everyone. Looks like we might have one more question or raised hand. Kathy.
I don't remember why I raised my hand.
Okay, we'll come back to you. Destiny?
I have a question more so for like adaptive tools, like what tools are out there. Specifically, my thought is bike grading. How are there organizations that work around those kind of tools where we could help or support when it comes to bike grading?
I'm still learning what organizations are offering, quite honestly. So I don't know who to recommend. But I will say, before even like bike riding or like sports, there are things that you can do around your house to make it more accessible for your child. And that's like lever doorknobs instead of the ball doorknobs. Same with like your water faucets. Little things like that is what I would encourage you to pay attention to more day to day. And then I'll let them talk about sporting adaptation.
For bicycles, I've always, now I don't know, I can't remember Destiny. Is her arm full length or almost full length?
It's almost full length. We're just missing the hand on the left. Well, we're missing, I think, about half of her forearm and left hand.
So I'm not sure, and maybe someone with a similar limb difference can expand. I used to ride bikes a lot. I haven't in a while, but I used to a lot, and I've always been really successful going into shops, finding good techs, good mechanics. Actually, I'm really good friends with one. We forged a really close friendship, who can help you find the little things that like a coupler for the brakes that will couple your brakes so that all the brakes go to one side. That's really key. And they sell it on Amazon. I can share that with Chelsea, the one that I use on my bike. But you can retrofit almost any bike. There's a electronic shifting. This is probably more than she needs right now, but if she loves bike riding, there's electric shifting now, like DI2, which I think is a Shimano shifter, and it's actually just a button, and it's a button you can press, and they can actually switch it to whatever the full size hand side is, so that they can shift both their large and small gears on the bike. I love talking bikes. If you want to talk to me more, I'm happy to, but I can also put you in touch with folks who know. But I think it's probably, if you have a good bike shop with some good technicians there, they can help you figure out some good things. Chelsea brought up a good point about things that we use at home, things you don't even think about, like the weight of your silverware. I don't know about other people, or even kitchen tools. So things that you can use with one hand. A lot of people use a rocker for a knife, but if you can hold a knife, for me, the weight of the silverware and the way it's shaped actually matters. And I mentioned something to my mom, like literally last year, and she said, "Well, I never knew that." And I never had said it, but her silverware was too heavy and it was too thin for me to get a real good grasp on it so that I could cut. So actually, there's a lot of really interesting things like that that I'll think about and share in the chat too.
Thank you.
Destiny?
That was my only question.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Kathy, do you remember what you were going to ask?
I think it's Eduardo. Me and Eduardo are on separate phones. I think it's Eduardo.
I thought that was coming to Eduardo. What's your question?
Oh, yes, it is me. Can y'all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So thank y'all again. All the topics and questions that have been asked are questions that me and Kathy talk about very constantly. But my question is, like, camps or weekend things with kiddos. We're looking into Camp No Limits right now. But just to ask, like, what's everybody's experience been with other camps?
Madison?
Yeah, so there's a camp called Nub Ability, and it's a kids camp, and it's more of a sports-based camp. But I feel like it's, from what I've seen through, I guess, social media, it looks very similar to Camp No Limits. And they go all over the country, and I didn't know about them growing up, but I connected with them through Instagram and just volunteered at a camp this past June or July. And it was amazing. Highly recommend them. Very inclusive, and it's like a great way to introduce your kids to all different kinds of sports. They have camps all year long with different sports, or they have one in the summer that's like an all sports camp that kind of combines a whole bunch of different sports. So that's a great one that I just found out about recently. And I'll put that in the chat.
Do we have any more questions? Make sure you're all in the Facebook group, because I will send out an email, but if any like links or anything comes through after I send the email, check there for resources and how to contact people. But I'd like to give our panelists a second to just kind of like advertise how to get in touch with each of you, so that if one of us resonated with you a little bit more, then you can reach out to us each directly. And we all have our own genius, it sounds like. And so if one question goes to this person or the other. So we'll start with Tina. How can we reach you?
I love that I'm always first. I was first to introduce, and I am first to.
You're in the top left corner.
I love it. So the best way would probably be, well, right now I'm on Insta a lot, so I don't know. Hopefully everybody has Insta. I'll put my address in the chat. Feel free to reach out anytime. Yeah. So I'll pass it to. I'll go with the same person, Madison.
Yeah, I'm pretty active through Instagram as well. I'm trying to keep up with Facebook. I really am trying. Yeah, I can link my Instagram in the chat, and I'm pretty involved with the Lucky Fin project as well. And I'm collaborating with a couple friends right now to start sending out like newsletters about all things adaptive. We have a whole bunch of resources. So I would love to get everyone's emails as well, maybe from Chelsea later, and can just send out that newsletter. And we're in the process of trying to plan a yoga retreat for people with limb differences, children's or adults. I'm big into yoga. I just got certified to be a teacher. And also, as Danielle and Jill mentioned, do a lot of adaptive rock climbing. And there's adaptive rock climbing clinics all over the country. And I would link that in the newsletter as well. So I would love to send that out to everyone as well.
Louisa?
Okay. Yeah, my email is my name because I couldn't figure out how to change it. Feel free to reach out. I'll put my Instagram also in the chat. And yeah, I just really enjoyed connecting with everybody. I've never been in like a space with this many other people with limb differences, so I was like also like taking it in. It's really beautiful to share space with all of you, and yeah, I would love to connect. Like I said, like I teach dance and I work with kids a lot, so if you have any questions about anything like that, like I would love to chat.
Awesome. Go to Esteban.
Yeah, I'll type my Instagram. It's Esteban, Estibann, and and then I have a TikTok that I post like prosthetic videos. I haven't done one recently, but um, for sure I like to post. It's just fun. I'm not huge, right? I'm not. I don't have a huge following, but it's just fun. Um, and that TikTok name is R Space Nub. So Space Nub is my gamer tag for the video games that I've played. So um, I couldn't do just Space Nub because someone took it, and I looked at his profile. It doesn't even have a nub, so it's like
rude.
Yeah, I'm like messaging him like, please change it.
And I'll send out everyone's handles and things too in the email as well. So if you're not wanting to write this down, let's go to Jillian and then Maddie.
Yeah, Jilly Dog on everything. I'm only big on TikTok because I have a weird niche, which is nursing with one hand and CrossFit. But other than that, you know, you're gonna find an adaptive person for everything. That's what I think now in this generation, and you're so lucky to have kids in this generation growing up with an adaptive something, because there's something for everyone. So feel free to reach out to any of us at any time when your kids are feeling lost. Like, we will FaceTime them just to show them like it's going to be okay. They're going to have a great life.
Absolutely. Thank you. Maddie?
Yeah, same. I'm not on Facebook, but if anyone would like to add me on Instagram, my profile is private, but please feel free to send a friend request. I'm happy to accept. And email anytime. Here for you guys. Thanks so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. Do we have any last things to say? I just don't want to cut anyone off. Well, I'll do me then. I'm Chelsea. I'm Who the Chill Cares. I have a podcast that I haven't done in a few months, but that is coming back at the beginning of next year, and it's all over the place. And I just like to touch on conversations that aren't happening. So whether that's mental health, adaptive, like limb differences, my friend with Tourette's syndrome educating us on that. Lots of things that need to be talked about that don't get talked about super frequently. So follow us along on Instagram because I am terrible at Facebook, except for I do try to be good in the group that I created. So join us there. It's the Limb Different networking community. Same like branding as the flyer for this event. And if you want the link directly sent to you, I'm happy to do that. But thank you everyone for your time. I really appreciate you taking the time out to do this. This will be recorded and posted to my YouTube. So if you feel like this is something that other people could benefit from listening to, feel free to share it to them. And then keep an eye out on my Instagram stories and posts. I will be doing this again. And thank you for your patience in getting this all set up. I love you all. Have a good rest of your week.